What is the difference between and what is the meaning of the four terms corporatization, disinvestment, privatization, and lease? These four terms can be understood based on how a business is owned. What is a corporate? A corporate is a business entity that is formed under the Companies Act of India. In case of a corporate, ownership is defined by share. Percentage share held by an entity defines the ownership and control of a corporate. As against corporate, what is a non-corporate? A non-corporate entity can be a government department like a public works department, PWD, or a irrigation department. It can be a partnership firm between individuals and a proprietorship where the business is owned by a single person. What is corporatization? Corporatization means converting a non-corporate entity into a corporate entity. An example is Ordnance Factory Board. Till last year, Ordnance Factory Board held 7 ordnance factories. Ordnance factories are the factories which manufacture arms and ammunition for the defense forces. These 7 ordnance factories were held under Ordnance Factory Board, which was in turn held by Ministry of Defence, Government of India. In 2021, the government corporatized these ordnance factories, meaning the government converted these factories into corporates. It issued shares for those ordnance factories, and now those shares are held by Ministry of Defence, Government of India. So instead of a department, it is now a corporate entity owned 100% by Government of India. The Government of India continues to exercise control over these companies, but in the form of a corporate. What is disinvestment? Investment. What is investment? Investment means the amount that I have put into a business. So disinvestment or divestment means I want to withdraw my capital, my money from the business. And how do I do that? I do that by selling off my share to some other person or to some other entity. So my share in the business would reduce and I would get money against the share that I have sold. Now there are two shareholding hurdles, 100% and 51%. We will understand these hurdles in the coming slides. State Bank of India is a government bank, government owned bank. This is how we hear people. What does that mean? It means that the owner of State Bank of India is Government of India. Till the year 1995, Government of India owned State Bank of India 100%. 100% shareholding of State Bank of India was with Government of India. In the year 1991, the government decided to sell off a part of its shares to the public, Indian public as well as foreign public. So it came out with a issue of shares and it sold shares to the public, and as on December 2021, Government of India holds 57.6% of State Bank of India. So the remaining 42% is held by public. Since the Government of India holds more than 51% shares of State Bank of India, hence we say it is a government bank, because whoever holds more than 51%, more than half of a company, will be the practical owner of the company, and that entity would decide the functioning of the company. So State Bank of India is not 100% owned by Government of India. It is only 57.6% held by Government of India, but it is called a government company because the government continues to exercise control over this company. Now, what is privatization? Before we understand that, what is a private sector and what is public sector? Government sector is also called as public sector. Why? Because in a democracy, the government is a representative of the public. So whatever is held by the government is effectively held by the public. So the government sector is called public sector. And anything that is not held by the government is called private sector. So this is the difference between public sector and private sector. Privatization means when the government sells off more than 51% of a share of a government company to a non-government entity. This is called privatization, because once the private entity holds 51% or more percent of the company, it will start exercising control over how the company works. So this scenario is called privatization. The latest example of privatization is Indian Airlines sold off to Tata Sons. In this case, Air India was a government company which was held 100% by Government of India. Government of India sold off this company to Tata Sons. Now the Tata Sons owns a majority stake in the company, so they exercise control over the working of Air India. This is an example of privatization. Now, why do companies or why do governments go for privatization? Reason number one is to stop making further losses. In case of Air India was running losses. For example, if it was spending 100 rupees on running the airline, it was able to earn only 50 rupees by way of ticket sales. So there was a gap of 50 rupees. These figures are arbitrary figures just for example's sake. So there was a shortfall of 50 rupees. Now how will the airline pay salaries and pay for its fuel? This would be paid by Government of India on behalf of Indian Airlines. So every year Government of India was spending extra money just to keep this company alive. So the government decided to sell off Air India to Tata Sons so that they stop making those losses. The government is benefiting because now it does not need to spend that extra money to make up that loss, and Tata Sons benefits because they can run this airline much better and probably they can make it profitable for themselves. So this is an example of privatization. What is a lease? In case of a lease, there are two parties. One is called a lessor and the other is called a lessee. The owner of the property is called lessor, and the entity that takes that property on rent is called the lessee. Lessee is the one that operates that property for a limited period of time and then hands it back to the lessor or the owner. Let's take an example. Government of India has come up with a scheme called Adopt a Heritage. Heritage means the historical buildings and monuments that India has, these are owned by Government of India. Now these historical buildings and monuments have to be preserved for our future generations. So government has to spend money on maintaining these historical monuments. So one way of earning money through these monuments is the sale of tickets. When people visit a monument, they buy tickets. So this is one source of earning for the heritage monument, but that is not enough to maintain the property. So government has asked private companies to come up and take it on lease. Latest example is Red Fort. Red Fort has been leased out to a private company called the Dalmia Group. Now the Dalmia Group has been given control of Red Fort for maintenance and upkeep. So Dalmia will maintain the property. They will be collecting ticket fees, or probably setting up eating joints around Red Fort. People would come and spend money there. That would be their earning. With this, they will maintain and upkeep Red Fort and will also pay a rent to Government of India. So this is again a win-win situation for Government of India as well as the Dalmia Group, and also for Red Fort, because Red Fort will get maintained for our future generations. So I hope you understood the difference between and the meaning of corporatization, disinvestment, privatization and lease. Thank you.